So today our speaker is Pixie Hobby, our vice chair. Pixie's been a longtime student of Unity in Ottawa and New Westminster. In the 90s, she co-facilitated workshops and spoke on occasion with Reverend Charlene. After moving to Crescent Beach, Pixie began to attend Unity of White Rock, and so currently, as I said, she's vice president of the board, spiritual leadership team member, and a frequent speaker on Sundays. She enjoys playing her crystal bowls, being in nature, kayaking, helping people, gardening, and beekeeping. It's so interesting because today I was also facilitating the service at Unity of York Region, which is just outside Toronto. And we were talking, the speaker there was talking about the bees. And I was surprised that people did not realize that the bee dance is communication. We all know that because Pixie has certainly taught us well about the wisdom and the intellect of bees. We know that it must be pretty soon, Pixie, that, or maybe you've already done it, take the bees off your porch and put them back into the garden. Anyway, so Pixie will be speaking to us about Enviro-Reno, a job for your spiritual power tools. First, we're going to have a song by Holly, Potts Lagoon, and then Pixie will lead us in meditation.
Thank you, Pat. So this song celebrates this incredible ecological heritage. All of us citizens of the Salish Sea, this is our home place. And just north of the Salish Sea, north of Campbell River, off towards the mainland is an area called the Broughton Archipelago. And a few years ago, I was sailing with in Blackfish Sound. And for the first time in my life, I've grown up on this coast, I saw dolphins in front of the sailboat. I saw humpback whales. I saw eagles fishing, and I was in a rowboat in the rain rowing up Potts Lagoon, which is in the Broughton Archipelago. Blackfish Sound from the humpback hops, dance to the rhythm of the creaking oarlocks, all the way up Potts Lagoon, all the way up Potts Lagoon, all the way up Potts Lagoon.
Thank you, Holly. I'm already there. And now I'm going to take all of you to Potts Lagoon. So begin to relax and feel supported by your chair or whatever you're sitting on. And let's take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. And take another deep breath in and let it flow out slowly. And finally, a third deep breath and let it out as you begin to relax deeper and deeper. Focus on your breath now as you feel any tension or stress in your head and neck soften and flow down out your arms and your fingertips. Feel your chest and your shoulders soften and relax as tension flows out through your breath. As you continue to breathe, feel your belly and your hips soften, and any tension there flow down through your legs and out into the earth through the bottoms of your feet. And any remaining stress or tension in your legs, knees, or ankles, or your feet, drain away through the bottoms of your feet into the earth. Stay with your breath and imagine walking beside the ocean, maybe in Potts Lagoon on a warm summer day. Dipping your feet into the water, you find the water warm and inviting, so you walk right in. In the distance, you see a pod of dolphins playing, leaping in and out of the water. As you wade in deeper, feeling the warm ocean on your skin, you begin to float easily in the water. Feeling relaxed in the pleasantly warm water, you gently submerge your whole body under the water and discover how easily and effortlessly you can breathe in this calming and gentle place, and how gracefully you are gliding underwater, popping up every few moments to see other dolphins around you, greeting you and inviting you to come and play with them. You join them, cavorting through the waves, splashing freely in this nurturing environment. You are calm, centered, and exhilarated as you feel what it's like to be a dolphin, free in the ocean, swimming, communicating playfully with other dolphins. Oh, what a feeling. You find yourself delightfully riding a huge wave and looking up towards the sky. You see an eagle flying overhead, And as you breach out of the water, you gently begin to take flight, noticing how easily you can float on currents of warm air, breathing gently and feeling free and light. With the utter freedom and delight, you glide over the treetops, fields, and streams, noticing how tiny everything looks from your new vantage point. What a feeling it is to be an eagle. You stop for a rest atop a huge tree next to the beach and notice some children playing in the water and others playing in the sand. A strong sense of belonging and connection with them you begin to feel, and it's growing. So you swoop down to a huge rock on the beach. Upon landing there, you stretch your arms as the children run towards you to greet you. Standing up, you feel your human body again. The same feelings of freedom, delight, and connection fill your entire being. And as you enter the silence, you know on a deep level that you are one with all living things and one with the divine. Let's stay in that silence for a moment. And slowly and gently now, arise from the beach and return to your comfortable homes. Stretch out your fingers and you're wiggling your toes and come back into the room. And thank you, Holly, for the beautiful music that accompanied that meditation.
You're welcome.
Today, we're going to get serious about the environment. We're going to talk about Enviro-Reno, a job for your spiritual power tools. This Thursday, April 22nd, is Earth Day, a special day established back in 1970 to celebrate our precious planet and to remind us that we have a duty of care as stewards of the earth. I think it's fair to say that the need for Earth Day grew after Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, came out in June 1962. Exposing the threat of all life on Earth from the use of toxic pesticides, Silent Spring triggered a worldwide environmental movement to protect our planet and all the life she supports. The focus in the 1960s and 70s was on industrial pollution. Most Canadian provinces passed laws to ban toxic waste and toxic substances and to force polluters to clean up the ecosystems they had contaminated. The environmental movement continued to expand even more beyond pollution to include human health and social justice issues that flow as a result of environmental degradation. People were waking up to the truth of our oneness with our planet and all her life forms. This growing awareness set the tone for the 1972 United Nations Conference on Human Environment. This international meeting brought industrialized and developing countries together to identify the rights of the global human family to a healthy, productive environment, to adequate food, sound housing, and safe water. The 1980s saw a temporary switch from social to economic concerns, just as scientists brought our attention to urgent and complex environmental problems like climate change, threats to the ozone layer, and deserts consuming agricultural land. Environmental degradation, first seen as a problem of rich countries and a side effect of industrial wealth, had finally become a survival issue for developing countries. The United Nations responded to this in 1983 by creating the World Commission on Environment and Development to craft a global agenda for change. Its goal? To find ways our concerns for the environment could be translated into greater cooperation amongst countries at different stages of economic and social development, and lead to the achievement of common objectives that take account of the interconnection between people, resources, environment, and development. Its report, titled Our Common Future, the Commission proposed long-term integrated environmental, social, and economic plans for achieving sustainable development by the year 2000 and beyond. Sadly, too few of the recommendations of that report have actually been followed. And now, more than 30 years later, we are facing a climate crisis that threatens our very survival on Earth. What has kept us from achieving the goals of sustainable development? I think it's the decisions we've made using our power of love unwisely. Now, before you groan, let me explain. The power of love is one of the 12 powers identified by Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore. Remember our Christmas candlelighting ceremony? Where the candles representing each of the 12 powers were lit and affirmations about those powers were read by some of you? Surely you remember that. The 12 powers are divine ideas that are associated with humankind. We experience these 12 powers as core abilities within us that equip us to handle every life situation. Although each of our 12 powers has a focused role to play, they work together in concert, supporting one another as we master the art of living. I like to think of the 12 powers as spiritual power tools for raising our consciousness and improving the quality of our lives and our environments. And that includes our inner space and our home environment, our workplaces, our communities, and of course, the natural world. The power of love is the Unity theme for April. Pat's already told us that. The last 2 Sundays, we heard Janet and Eric speak eloquently and from the heart about how we experience the feeling aspect of love in our lives. Today, I will show you how we use the thinking aspect of our power of love in conjunction with the other powers in order to heal, renovate, or restore our external and internal environments, and therefore improve the quality of life. Our life is a series of decisions and actions. Each day, we make hundreds of decisions before taking action. Our power of love, expressing as desire, is what motivates or drives us to make decisions. When we use this power from ordinary consciousness, based on our senses, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, sometimes we desire things that aren't good for us, like that third bowl of chocolate hazelnut ice cream. Another aspect of the power of love is that it harmonizes everything to match what we desire. So unless we manage our power of love and use it wisely, we may find ourselves harmonizing with things we don't want. Therefore, to use our power of love, we need to do it together with 3 other powers from our spiritual toolbox based on ideas, truths, principles, and laws that are divine in nature. These are our power of wisdom, the power and the ability to assess, evaluate, and concern, our power of understanding, which is the ability to know, comprehend, and interpret knowledge, our power of will, the ability to choose and make decisions. The power of love, according to Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, is that when used from ordinary consciousness, it is the ability to feel affection for, desire, attract oneself to, harmonize, and unify based on our senses, thoughts, and feelings. And when used from elevated consciousness, it's the same ability, but based on ideas, truths, principles, and laws that are divine in nature. It's important that we remember that. Now I'm going to show you how this constellation of 4 core powers, love, wisdom, understanding, and will, work together as we make decisions about the environment. And I'm going to do it by telling you a story, a true one, about a friend and colleague of mine, José, who left the practice of law and became the mayor of a little city. A proposal to bring a green waste recycling plant next to a city park arrives on the desk of Mayor José, the mayor of a small city. Several trees where eagles nest have to be cut down. Like many other citizens, the mayor enjoys walking and watching eagles in the park, so she doesn't want that park disturbed. Her desire is for the park and the eagles to remain in their natural, healthy state. Her power of love, expressing as desire, drives her to make a decision about the recycling proposal. In the process of making her decision, the mayor uses her power of understanding and consults with citizens, scientists, business owners, and city councilors to gather information and knowledge about the value of the park to local residents and visitors, the benefits of turning green waste into organic compost for gardeners, the jobs that the recycling plant will bring to the community, other possible locations for the recycling plant, and the cost of buying the land in those areas. Mayor José studies this information and understands all the factors she needs in order to make a decision. Using her power of wisdom, she assesses and evaluates the knowledge and information she has gathered, and maybe seeks additional expert advice. The mayor exercises discernment in weighing the pros and cons of the proposal. Does the cost of buying land in an industrial and commercial area outweigh the value of preserving the park for the eagles, the citizens, and visitors? Based on her full understanding of the facts, and having discerned the priorities of her community, the mayor uses her power of will to determine what outcome is in the best and highest interests of her community. She then makes a decision to build a recycling plant in the industrial and commercial area. The Eagles Park is preserved. New jobs are created. Green waste is put to good use as compost. The cost of buying land for the recycling plant will eventually be recovered by revenues generated from the sale of the compost and the sale of alternative fuel produced as a byproduct of the composting process. The last but not least important step in this process is taking action to implement her decision. It's important to understand that when we make a decision, we use our powers of love, understanding, wisdom, and will all at the same time. Not in a sequence, one at a time. As the driver of the decision-making process, our power of love, desire, is always at play. Desire influences where and how we gather information and knowledge, and how we assess and evaluate that information. Our desire also influences our exercise of discernment when weighing the pros and cons before making a decision. And desire also affects how we implement the decision by taking action. Having looked at this process of decision-making driven by love, we can now appreciate how the shocking information in Rachel Carson's Silent Spring triggered our desire for a healthy environment and started the environmental movement. This movement drove many people, including those in positions of power and influence, to make wise decisions to stop industrial pollution and control toxic substances and clean up the environment. Science has confirmed that the health of the environment, human health, and economic and social well-being are interconnected and dependent on each other. This is totally in line with indigenous teachings from all around the world about the oneness of all life on Earth. Our awareness of this truth has triggered a global desire for a better world, one where a healthy environment provides food, clean air and water, shelter, and supports sustainable economic growth. This global desire led the United Nations to gather countries together to create plans to achieve this outcome. Little or no action, though, even today, has really been carried out on most of these plans. And we are now facing a very serious climate emergency. What's going wrong? In a word, unwise decisions. Driven by the power of love, expressing as desire for a better world, people in positions of power use their power of understanding to gather knowledge and information to inform their decision-making. The problem seems to be that many decision makers operate from a lower consciousness when using their power of wisdom, the ability to assess, evaluate, and discern. Rather than operating from an elevated consciousness in evaluating and discerning the best possible outcomes for the highest and best good of all life on earth, they discern what's in their own best interests. They place greater value on things that enhance their positions of power and wealth. This leads to international discord rather than agreement. As a result, many good plans are not implemented at all. Let me give you a real-life example of this. After a day discussing the need for all countries to switch from fossil fuel and dirty energy to clean tech to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and slow down climate change, a spokesman for developing countries made what I thought was a very reasonable request. He began by noting that over 90% of all the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere came from industrialized countries over the past 4 or 5 decades. He then explained that developing countries are struggling to provide their citizens with basic services such as clean water, sanitation, and public transportation, and the only available energy that they can afford is fossil fuel-based coal, oil, and gas. He asked if the developing countries would give the developed countries if they would give the developing countries access free of charge to the technical know-how to create their own free and clean energy sources, or at least give it at a discounted price. He added that it doesn't matter where the greenhouse gases come from, they all end up in the upper atmosphere and cause climate change, which affects every country and every community on the planet. We are one people and one planet, he said. So the industrialized nations would actually benefit from helping developing countries meet their energy needs with free or discounted clean energy know-how. Everybody would benefit if they would make this technology available for free. The industrialized countries decided not to do this. Their reasons? We would lose millions, maybe billions of dollars giving away this know-how, which we could otherwise sell. And secondly, if we give you this know-how or sell it to you at a discounted price, you could produce it at a lower cost because your labor is cheaper and then undercut our sales to other countries. So even in the face of truth, our oneness on this planet, the industrialized countries made their decisions from lower consciousness, money, and power. On a note I heard this morning on the news that the US and China are going to collaborate to deal with the climate change issue. I'm waiting with bated breath to see if they can come from a higher consciousness. But what can we as individuals do to improve our lives and our environment? We are each using our 12 powers all the time, every day, even unconsciously. Imagine what our world and our lives would be like if we were to use our 12 powers from a higher consciousness. Each of us can raise our own consciousness using the 4 core powers: love, understanding, wisdom, and will. When we use all our 12 powers from an elevated consciousness, we experience greater inner peace and joy. This creates a loving and supportive home environment and a collaborative, productive, and satisfying work environment. All our decisions ultimately have an impact on our natural environment. Charles Fillmore described love in this way. Love in divine mind is the idea of universal unity. In expression, it's the power that joins and binds together the universe and everything in it. Love is a harmonizing, constructive power. When it is made active in consciousness, it conserves substance and reconstructs, rebuilds, and restores us and our world. Let us use our power of love wisely this Earth Week. Make a conscious effort to be aware of how your decisions and choices impact the Earth and all the creatures she supports. As divine beings, each one of us is far more powerful than we know or believe. And that is the truth. And now, as we let these thoughts settle into our consciousness, let's listen to Holly sing her composition, March of the Spirit.
Hello? I just lost sound from...
We can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you so much, Pixie. That was a brilliant, brilliant talk. And this song, March of the Spirit Bear, for folks who don't live in this area, up in the north central coast of British Columbia is an area that's come to be known as the Great Bear Rainforest, and it's full of pristine watersheds and beautiful, beautiful ecologically sensitive areas. And it's inhabited by what have come to be known as spirit bears. They're actually black bears, but you know, very few of them end up white, and they're called spirit bears. Princess Royal Island is one of the places that I went and actually saw a spirit bear in the flesh. And I learned that bears, when they live their lives walking through undisturbed ancient forests, they have pathways. In the song, you'll hear me talk about highways of the bear. And what that's referring to is that bears will walk through old growth forest, and you'll see their pathways. And over decades and millennia, they put their paws in exactly the same spots in the forest, you know, and those, so it's not a pathway like a human pathway, it's this series of spots where they put their paws exactly, and those spots get indented deeply into the moss. And of course, you have to protect that forest in order to sustain that highway of the bear. You'll hear the river Quay mentioned, which is in the Great Bear Rainforest, which is a salmon spawning river. So here we are, March of the Spirit Bear. From Namu to Rivers Inlet and the Nass and Kitwanga live the Gitgat, Heltsik, Simshian, Newhawk, and Nishka. Raven set aside a rainforest home where he decreed spirit bears can freely roam and live together in harmony. I say, where Pacific Ocean pounds Princess Royal Island and oil tankers glide past Hartley Bay, grow cedar trees 1,000 years old and bears as white as clouds on a sunny day. We need the forest to sustain the ancient highways of the bear, following footsteps year by year. The Great Bear Rainforest keeps the rain a falling, salmon running, and the water clear. The beauty, the threat, the treasure, the debt, the black, the white, the dark, the light. Black oil, white bears, oil spills, who cares? Like salmon waiting at the mouth of the quay to go upstream and spawn, waiting for rain to raise water levels. Why is it taking so long? We know what we gotta do and where we need to go. We can't get there from here. We can put our hearts together and get our collective act in gear. Oh yeah, we need the forest to sustain the ancient highways of the bear, following footsteps year by year. The Great Bear Rainforest keeps the rain a falling, salmon running, and the water clear. We need the forest to sustain the ancient highways of the bear, following footsteps year by year. The Great Bear Rainforest keeps the rain a falling, salmon running, and the water clear. Hey,
much, Holly. That was awesome. I love your passion. That is just so wonderful.
You're very
And
welcome.
it was great. I love the way you explain what it is you're singing about.
Well, and Pat,
Oh,
I meant to mention also that all those names of First Nations that are mentioned in the lyrics, they all live in that big area of the Great Bear Rainforest and are working so hard to protect that
mhm.
precious place.
Yes. Well, they're lucky to have you to promote them and to publicize it. Thank you again so much. And thank you, Holly, for the Enviro-Reno show. Uh, it was a really great examples of how to use our power of decision wisely. Thank you. I think there'll be lots of comments in fellowship time after the service for both of you. So please